Hey everyone, today we are diving into an AI video platform that really swings for the fences when it comes to virtual camera movement. All right, get the Steadicam ready, we're going in. So over the last few weeks, you may have caught some pretty cool AI video generations showing up in your social feeds that featured very wild camera motion. Now, my guess is that most of those that you saw were generated in Higgsfield, which is, I wouldn't call it a new AI video generator. They've been around for a little bit, but they really do seem to have found a niche in these hyper-stylized shots. And don't get me wrong, we have definitely seen a lot of, gimmicky AI video features popping up lately. So I wanted to spend a little time in Higgsfield to find out, is this on the gimmick side or is this on the useful tool side? So if you haven't been over to Higgsfield yet, the platform offers a number of camera motion presets, I guess, as well as a number of other kind of special effect shots, I guess, like building explosion here, as well as some pretty other useful ones like, a bullet time preset. Now, obviously, promotional material always tends to look pretty good, raising the question of, is it like cherry picking or is the model actually capable of doing this? In my opinion, it's not necessarily cherry picking, it is editing, but the question is, how much editing? Well, to be honest, it's actually not too bad as long as your initial image input, has at least some kind of visual connection to one of these presets. And there are definitely a number of presets here. So I would definitely recommend, upon first logging on to at least, spend a few minutes looking through each one of them. Some you will definitely find more useful than others. For example, bullet time, definitely use that one a lot. You'll definitely be seeing a lot of buildings exploding in this video, and Snorri Cam here I definitely ended up utilizing a number of times as well. That said, something like tentacles here with, tentacles popping out of somebody's eyes, probably not going to utilize that one too much unless I'm, in a very Lovecraftian mood. Spoilers for later in this video, I will be in a Lovecraftian mood. So kicking off with an image of our Noir detective. We used him in our last video on Kling 2.0 as well. Obviously, you can upload your image, and this embarrassingly took me far longer to realize that I could do than it should have. You can also come over to this little thumbnail, and if you click that, it'll repopulate into the image tab since I already did run this. From there, we can obviously hit the change button up here and change this into any one of the camera presets that we would like to. I am going to leave this on zoom out. And then interestingly, you could pretty much run this completely promptless if you want to. You can provide it with action. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. As long as the enhance, prompt is on, we'll just hit generate. And sure enough, we end up with this shot, which isn't bad. I mean, it's what we asked for, a zoom out. We did get a little bit of like fiddly notebook action as well. So it's not leaving the character completely inert. Now, the downside is that is only a 5-second shot. The durations available are only 3 seconds and 5 seconds. If you are disappointed with that, we are going to take a look at some extension tricks coming up in just a little bit. But I will say there's actually a lot that you can do in 5 seconds. For example, explosions. Told you we're going to see a lot of explosions in this, namely because I like explosions. So taking this not so great Midjourney generated image of, 2 alien ships on fire during an alien invasion, and utilizing the explosion preset, that is Michael Bay level of explosion. Now, the question, of course, is couldn't I prompt for this in another video generator and get a similar result? Possibly. I don't know if the results would be that overblown. But sorry, that one actually caught me off guard. You probably could prompt for this. But there are a few other camera motions that I think would be much more difficult. One in particular being the kiss preset, where you can take, one of your AI generated girlfriends and get a virtual smooch off of her. We're definitely going to see a spike in sales for screen cleaner coming up. Stepping aside of the question of how often are you going to need a POV kiss shot, I do have to say the model is pretty good at a number of things here, including like teeth. That's something that I think that a lot of us have noticed when you give an image to video input. As soon as the character opens his mouth, the teeth will tend to look a little bit on the wonky side. The other thing that I thought was pretty interesting is that she actually comes in for the kiss. Well, no nose hairs. At one point towards the end of the clip, it actually looks like her lips are pressed against the lens of the camera. Don't do that. Lenses are expensive. But it was interesting to see as kind of a fourth wall breaker. Well, not actually like a fourth wall erector, I guess. Now, obviously, the model does pretty well with those like rotational 360 type shots. This, of course, is the Midjourney egg that we looked at in the Midjourney V7 video. And, you know, running this with the 360, yeah, it does a pretty solid job. The problem, of course, being is that 5-second limitation where we don't get the full 360. That said, despite that limitation, you can get some pretty cool shots off. For example, Snorri Cam here, which is the thing from, is popularized most in Darren Aronofsky's Requiem for a Dream. The way the shot is accomplished is essentially by, you know, hooking up a camera mount to an actor. So as they're walking, you know, the camera follows in suit. Hey, it's my guy from Arrow. So taking this image and utilizing Snorri Cam, we end up with this shot, which, I mean, that's a pretty solid Snorri Cam in all honesty. I mean, it really does maintain the look of that camera being mounted to, you know, essentially our virtual actress there. To note a couple of other things too, that the model does a pretty good job of essentially hallucinating the rest of the environment, considering, again, a lot of that neon light, the bus sign, I presume there, none of that actually exists in the input image. So that is all essentially new creation. And of course, the disintegration effect, which I definitely saw all over the various social media platforms. You know, yeah, it's okay. It's the disintegration effect from Infinity War, was it? That was one of the Marvel movies. Yeah, they should really do the spaghetti one from Loki. That one was cool. Again, this is an effect where I don't know where I would necessarily end up needing it, but I mean, I guess it's good to know that it's there. Speaking of which, I did promise you guys tentacles. So here's kind of a, you know, Cthulhu-inspired character, very shrouded in darkness. When you run the tentacles preset on this one, yeah, you get, you know, tentacles coming out. So yeah, decent. I didn't run a lot of prompt action for this character, so they feel a little bit on the inert side. Like you get one quick motion here. The tentacles are definitely doing a lot of movement, but the character is not. It is interesting that it issued the zoom in on its own, so maybe even it knew, like, we got to zazz this up a little bit. And the other thing to note here is that this was a 1:1 image, so it will take different aspect ratios as well, although it's outputting in 16:9. Now, it will do 9:16 natively, and actually that's where I think that the model does really well. We'll take a look at that in just a little bit. But before we do, a quick word from today's sponsor. So I think it's safe to say that anybody watching this channel does consider themselves an artist. Some on the video side, some on the motion side, and some on the audio side. But we are all pioneers of this new technology. We also know that these subscription costs end up adding up. And while a lot of us are either working toward or have already secured client work, I mean, I think it's safe to say that there is a lot of financial juggling that goes on. Luckily for us, we have AI, and the sponsor of today's video, HoneyBook, has streamlined it for us. HoneyBook is the leading CRM platform for entrepreneurs and an all-in-one platform with amazing AI capabilities to help you manage your creation business. Everything from invoices to payments is here, but in particular to us, what I really like is their AI features, including project recaps, which includes meeting notes, action items, payment details, open tasks, and more. Listen, tracking all of those things is something that I have always been super terrible at, but HoneyBook does make that easy. Not only that, but the platform will also track your expenses and cash flow. So you've got a bird's eye view on how much is coming in and how much is going out. Speaking of coming in, HoneyBook does have a robust set of automated tools, including making sure those invoices go out. As a one-man show, well, there is the dog, but yeah, as a one-man show, I can tell you it's a lot to keep your head above water. But HoneyBook serves as a great virtual business partner. If you're interested, and at the very least in the project tracking and expenses, because that might be shocking to you, you can try out HoneyBook for a free 7-day trial, no credit card needed at the link below. Hey, my thanks to HoneyBook for sponsoring today's video. Now, I will say that probably my go-to effect here is bullet time. Bullet time is awesome. So testing that out, I of course couldn't help myself but to grab a shot from The Matrix, and not just any shot. I wanted a behind-the-scenes shot of them doing the bullet time sequence. Yeah, I gotta say, it does a pretty good job of, you know, mimicking the actual bullet time shot. Now, we do have a few of our typical AI video problems, namely in that Agent Smith here, you know, in the input, yeah, Hugo Weaving is wearing sunglasses here. And then by the time we get here, actually, he just kind of looks like a very angry Dwight Schrute. A little bit of decoherence as the camera comes around here. As we can see, the guide wire here actually goes through Keanu's boot. But, you know, I actually, that one's not that big a deal because, you know, if you were actually doing this, you could that would be all green screened out. By the way, speaking of the Matrix, quick side note, in case you weren't aware, that whole bullet time effect was actually created by a guy named John Gaeta, and John is actually one of us. He's got a platform called Escape that you can go to and check out. I'll link down below. Basically, it is kind of a Netflix for AI films. So if you're looking for, hey, there's the bridge, there's me. If you're looking for some inspiration, definitely head on over and check it out. There's some great stuff in here. So yeah, it's a really good way of keeping up with what all of us are doing. Circling back to Higgsfield, one effect that I did find I think would be pretty useful is the Glass Shatter effect. So this it kind of harkens back to the Kiss thing of breaking that fourth wall. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Again, this is something that you're probably not going to want to overuse, but yeah, I mean, I think that with some sound design, I mean, it's pretty eye-catching. Now, one interesting thing that you can do is that you can actually mix and match effects as well. So, for example, our not Megan Fox with a flamethrower shot here by issuing a building explosion and an arc, and then you actually can control the amount of the preset as well, which is pretty handy. And then running this, we do end up with a shot with a slight arc. I think I ended up turning that down a little bit, but definitely we get our explosions in there. And I do love me some explosions. Here's an alternate version with the arc turned up. And oddly, what we end up getting is the character turning as opposed to the camera itself. It might have something to do with that Dutch angle to begin with, because it seems to want to straighten itself out. But overall, I think this is a pretty decent shot. But again, we still do run into that 5-second limitation. I did see that Paige Peiskin actually had a 14-second long generation. This is a music video she put together. I can't play the audio because it's actually Jefferson Airplane's White Rabbit. I'll get copyright struck in like 2 seconds if I try to play it. Link will be down below if you want to hear it along with it. So Paige actually ended up using a Laura of her character and then Runway's Act 1 to do the lip sync. But other than that, this is actually Higgsfield. It's really pretty cool. So the way that this was accomplished was, of course, the old like last frame, first frame trick. And I'll say it works relatively well with Higgsfield. So again, this is the last frame of our first generation. And then just taking a screenshot of that, bringing that back over to Higgsfield and utilizing that as a first frame and like literally just issuing, the same building explosion and arc. We end up with this as a final shot, just shy of 10 seconds, I want to say, mainly because you'll notice, as always, there's, things get a little bit soft when we get to the extension, and there's always just that little bit of a hiccup between the shots. Now, someone, I want to say it was in the Kling video, mentioned that there might be a solution in DaVinci Resolve's optical flow frame match. So I got to re-download DaVinci and I'll give that a shot. And to note, I did have to play around a little bit with the speed on this clip to get it to sort of match the same tempo as our initial clip. That's my very long way of saying that I'm looking forward to Higgsfield having an extend feature. The other thing that the model is not necessarily great at is maintaining style outside of like sort of cinematic and realistic. For example, this is kind of like anime girl, punk rock girl. You'll notice that as the generation goes on, she sort of starts morphing into more of a, of a real person. That said, obviously, as a guitar player, two things that I've really got to like kind of shout out here is that the right hand strumming, that looks pretty dead on, in all honesty. Fingering actually looks pretty good as well. Although I do have to point out, nothing actually plugged into the guitar. Where I think the model does really do a great job is in the 9/16 format. And that really helps with those, shorter clip length as well. I think for sure, if you're doing Instagram or TikTok material, be it for, creative use or brand use, I think that this is where the model really shines, because you can create a lot of eye-catching stuff and you can do it extremely quickly. Now, does that mean that this model is useless to the 16:9 cinematic crowd? No, I mean, I don't think so as well. At 5 seconds a generation, it is definitely not your primary video generator. But I do think that, having it in your back pocket for a few special effects shots, that might actually zazz up your AI short film a considerable amount. Which, of course, brings us to pricing. And listen, I know that this is becoming a pain point between VO2 and Kling 2.0. On the Higgsfield side, there is a free trial of 25 credits, which basically comes out to about 2 generations just to give it a shot. The $9 monthly plan will get you about 15 videos, the Pro and the Ultimate. Actually, I don't necessarily suggest the Ultimate, unless, of course, you are doing something very specific like a music video and you have very specific shots in mind. My current recommendation is to sign up on the free trial, familiarize yourself with the various shots, maybe run your 2 demo generations. And then when you find yourself at a point where you need to get one of the shots from that shot list, at that point, maybe try out the basic plan for a month. And I think once they start moving into the area of extensions, up to like 10-second videos, I think, at that point, you're really cooking with something. In the meantime, I thank you for watching. My name is Tim.